This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast today. I have a very, very special guest, someone who I love dearly, my grandmother, Janice Mackay.
Hello.
Hey, Grandma, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Well, I never thought I'd be doing something like this, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
I've never seen a podcast.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
You haven't listened to my other episodes yet?
I don't know how to get to them.
Well, I will be a better grandson and show you how to get to them.
Okay.
So, no, I know we've talked about it. So do you know the other guests that I've had on here? I've had like my dad and my brothers and a couple other people.
Say it again.
What's that?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, no worries. I'm just saying some of the other guests that I've had on have been like my dad and my brothers and some of my friends. And
Oh, okay.
yeah. So, but we, the reason why I'm doing this podcast is for two reasons. The main reason is to kind of leave a legacy to, the grandkids and my kids and their kids, and kind of get, some of the people I feel that are important to me, and have conversations with them on here. And so you're obviously very high up on that list. And so, you're my only living grandparent.
That's right. And I'm your only children's great grandmother.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they call you Little Grandma.
Yeah, I am little grandma.
Which has been fun because your mom, my grandma Mary, are you taller than her, or is she?
I'm probably taller than her. I think she was short. She might have been 5 feet tall, and I started out to be 5'4", but I'm not that much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been funny. I, thinking about doing this podcast with you, there's like 1,000 questions, you want to ask and talk about. And I have literally known you my entire life. And you've always been good to me, and I've always looked forward to coming to your house, and you're always a cereal house. Remember that growing up? The house where we go to get cereal?
Oh, yes. If somebody spent the night here, they always had to have a bowl of cereal. I didn't want anybody going to bed hungry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think all the cousins, I was just barely with David. We had a meeting right before I came down here, and I was telling them I was having you on today, and we were just talking about sleeping over your house and seeing the scary clown that my mom painted as a kid, and just like all like these really, really fun memories of our family growing up, and I've had 2 older cousins pass away, and our family's been through a lot.
It has.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the kids were afraid of this painting, and Diana had made it. And what was the picture of?
It's a picture it's an oil painting of a clown.
Of a clown. And no matter where you looked, the clown's eyes followed you.
Yeah.
And these boys were also afraid of the clown. I think they were going to fight over it once my husband died.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is that? Is that clown? Is that in my mom's house now?
I think so.
I think she does have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because my mom never understood. I mean, it's not like a scary clown, but the problem is it's an oil painting. So it's, yeah, I don't know. It was always at the end of a hallway. So we would come down the stairs. If you went to the right, it would be the TV room where we kind of hung out with Grandpa. If you went to the left, it was a dark freaking hallway where that clown sat at the end of it waiting to judge you or get you or whatever. So we'd always walk down. I would always go to the bottom of the stairs, close my eyes, take a right, and then go into where the TV was at. But some cousins, they'd stare right at that clown and it would get them.
And his eyes always followed you.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
I'll tell you one thing about that house that was fun when I was younger is if you followed to the clown, if you went to the clown direction but went to the left at the end of the hall, that's where Grandpa used to have a gunsmith room.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Can you tell me more about that? Why did Grandpa do that?
Well, he loved guns. And at one point, I think he was injured at work as an iron worker, so he went over to Denver to go to gunsmith school. And he was over there for a year. And when he came back, he liked to do guns, but he never got a building of his own, to make it a real way of making money.
Yeah.
But he just loved his guns.
Yeah. Yeah. As I say, he's made, how many guns do you think he made?
I have no idea. I know Diana got one.
Yeah, I have one.
And you got one?
Yeah, I have one. David has one. I would guess it's closer to like 30 or 40. Think it's that high?
I don't know.
Yeah, you probably don't know. There's a lot in there. The one with mine is Grandpa took us when we were, I want to say 10 to 12 years old is when he made David and I some 20 gauge shotguns. And we went down into his shop, and he actually, we in the stock, we would cut out parts of it and add more wood to it. So I have like a little diamond, and I think David has a star in his, so you can kind of tell them apart.
Oh.
And so then he would take us out to the gun range, and we'd go shooting, and he let us drive his truck, which was always fun. I think I was 12 years old when I first started driving his truck. And,
yeah.
Took us to the salt flats, and yeah, it was fun. The little 2-door truck with the gun rack in it, and
Well, it's nice that you guys all remember that and remember the good parts of our life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the longer the time goes on, right, that's all you really remember is the good parts. You feel the same?
Well, I don't know. Because he had diabetes, he had a lot of problems. He had heart surgery. He had part of one leg amputated, and it was pretty hard the last 10 years of his life.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it hard to be married to him the last 10 years?
Pardon?
Was it hard to be married to him the last 10 years?
Oh, yes. It was very hard to be married to him.
Yeah.
He demanded a lot of attention, and he wanted me to be his nurse, but he also wanted me to be his partner.
Yeah.
And it was hard keeping them apart.
Yeah. That would be hard. Yeah, obviously I remember the last few years when he had the amputation, it was hard for him to get around, and Grandpa was a big guy.
Yeah.
So it's hard for him to move around. So.
Yeah, he was kind of proud of that artificial leg he had. I know one time we were down at the McCormack's house, and one of your cousins were there. And so he takes off the thing and puts it over his head. And of course, everybody, oh, what happened?
Yeah, he loved the shock value.
Yeah.
I remember having dinner at your house a lot. And, he always liked to pull the insulin needle out and draw it all along and then stab himself in the stomach with us. And,
Yeah.
All of us little kids would always like stare at him. He's taking a needle right to the stomach, and he pretended it was hurting him and all that kind of stuff, just to be funny and, keep our attention.
Well, every time any of my grandkids came, I met them at the top stairs. I gave them a hug. I always gave my grandkids a hug.
Oh, for sure.
Because I wanted them to feel like we really did love them, which we did. But I was not raised to do hugging. My family didn't hug.
Oh, really? I would have never have guessed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have really good parents and all that, but you knew they loved you, but they didn't hug you or kiss you or nothing.
Yeah. Was that, looking back, was that hard growing up that way?
I didn't know the difference, but my mother went to work as soon as the Second World War started. And so I was kind of a free agent because my mother was always working. I had a lot of fun on 56 West in Hunter, Utah. Most of the relatives were right there. My cousins and aunts and uncles were all right there. And my grandma Moser was there. And during the Second World War, when there was a Camp Kearns, the soldiers would come marching down 56 West, and they would stop at our place because we're on the corner and we had some shade. And so we'd always go out and entertain them. And one time my cousin LaJuan and we made them sandwiches. So I went down into the food cellar. There was a can of tuna and a can of corned beef. So I said, let's make corned beef. I don't like corned beef. So when my mother came home and she found out I had given sandwiches with corned beef, she was really mad at me. I said, yeah, but I like tuna better. And would make them lemonade and just entertain them.
Yeah. How many soldiers at a time would you guys entertain? Like, how many would come down?
Well, I don't know, the street would come, they'd just come marching, doing their marching. Yeah. And then they'd turn and go west and go past the Whittier Elementary School. So, we had quite a time with the soldiers back then.
Yeah. How old would you have been at that time?
Between 9 and 11, somewhere in there. Okay. Elementary school.
And most of those soldiers were probably 18, 19?
Probably.
Yeah. I think one thing people need to remember, too, like hearing this, if you're from Utah, you know exactly where you're talking about because we're on a grid system, right? But if you, back when you guys were out there, it was all farmland.
It's farmland, yeah.
Like as far as you could see, right?
And the roads were just gravel. And now 56th West is a big, big street. And all of where I grew up and all the other houses there have been taken down. And they're building the townhouses in there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to drive by there and say, oh my gosh, everybody's house is gone. And, where did I come from?
Yeah, I remember being a younger adult, probably 15, 16, and the family house was still standing back then, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After my mother sold it, after my dad died, and then she remarried somebody, she sold the house. But we had 4 acres. My grandparents were some of the first people to come out there on the west side, and so they had a lot of property. And Grandma had, I think, 7 or 8, maybe even 9 kids. So she divided up the property, and for some reason we got the corner one. But we had a vegetable garden, we had a cow, we had chickens, and us kids liked to play up in the dirt and make dirt houses and stuff like that. And kids can't do that anymore. There's no fun for them.
No.
They're in townhouses where there's no yards, and I don't know. I think from the 1933s to the 1950s were the best years to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah. What other things during that time period made it the best time?
Oh, we used to play outside, throwing the ball over the house. I forget what it's called. And we just had fun. There's a little softball field in the field. We'd play softball out there, and I don't know, I just had my cousins around me all the time. And I had other friends, but my cousins were always close to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, even when I was a child, we had the cousins. They weren't as close. Obviously, you guys all lived houses apart, but in fact, we pretty much gathered at your house with all the cousins a lot.
Uh-huh.
What was that elementary school by your house in West Valley?
That was called Whittier School.
Oh, is that Whittier? Oh, okay, yeah. So, we'd come over on Sunday or whenever we came over to your house, and then, we'd be in the house for 5 minutes, and all the cousins would want to run over to that elementary school, and we would play tag for hours. Hours and hours and hours. And,
oh, yeah, playing tag.
Yeah.
And something about the bears are going to get you.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, there was like 3 pine trees that were real close together. It was like a little cave, and we'd go in there, and we would make up stories. And, oh, yeah, I remember. Those are awesome memories. I mean, I even look at kids nowadays. They don't even know that stuff's possible.
No, they don't. They want to be on their electric things in their hands.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to socialize.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think is bad right now is kids don't know how to react without a item in their hand.
Yeah. An iPad or a tablet or something, right?
Yeah. I remember at one of my birthdays, probably my 75th birthday, my family all met in a restaurant, and we was all just in a long thing. The kids at one end had they're talking, and they were talking on the other end. We were in the middle and didn't hear anything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you were living, was it Hunter? Was that the area?
That was Hunter.
It's called Hunter. Is that where you were born?
I was born there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you born in a hospital or were you born at home?
I was born in the hospital.
Nice. Which one?
LDS Hospital in Salt Lake.
Nice.
When, as far as I can remember back, we had a little house that just had a kitchen and a bedroom, and the outhouse, and there was no running water, and you had to use coal for your stove. But they had 3 kids. They used to give us something to put us to sleep.
Oh, really?
Because we were all in the same room.
Yeah.
But eventually they had a house built next to them, and that was nice.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Grandma, one thing I'm thinking about in my head is when World War II happened, how old would you have been?
I think I was 9.
So you're that young?
I know my dad was working the night shift out at Kennecott, and he came home and said, "Oh, the Japanese have just struck Pearl Harbor."
Yeah.
And I said, "Daddy, why did they do that?" And he just said, "Well, they like to have more property, so they go in and bomb you and take the property." And I was satisfied with that.
Yeah. Do you remember being scared during that time, or did it affect you?
I was kind of nervous with the airplanes flying over us because we were sort of in the way of the airport. But there was a building down on about 13th South where they were making ammunition. And you could sit on our front porch and watch the bullets flying over. And when my mother went to work, she went out to Kennecott because the men had all gone off to the war. So she worked there, and she worked at the arms plant. And then she worked in Salt Lake, and she worked at Arbax for quite a few years. But she went to school and learned how bookkeeping and stuff like that. So she went out to Tooele, to the Tooele Ordnance Depot, and she was out there for about 20 years. So she worked from the start of World War II until about 1971 when Rebecca was born.
Yeah.
So my mother was always gone to work. And I had lots of fun.
Oh, I bet you did.
But I also had to do a lot of work in the house I had to help do the laundry. And I helped my dad fix supper because my mother came home later than my dad.
Yeah.
So I think I was closer to my dad.
Yeah.
Because Mama was always working. But
what would her hours be like? I mean, what time would she leave the house and what time would she come home?
Well, when she was working in Salt Lake, she would probably take the bus and be to work by about 10. And at that time, everything shut down about 6. Then she'd have to take the bus and come home. Life was a lot different then. For one thing, you had your freedom. You had relatives. You had friends also, but you could drive. You could run through the fields. And I remember when it was snowing, we'd go out in the field and make a great big circle. And there's a game there where I don't remember what it was called, but we just had fun. We played a lot of Monopoly and games like that also.
Yeah.
My sister, Joanne, was 3 years older than me, and my brother, Frank, was 3 years younger. So I was in the middle. So sometimes I thought I might have been adopted because I had the most chores to do.
Yeah.
Because Joanne was older and popular and played the piano, and I took piano lessons, but I didn't ever learn them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and Frank, he was always kind of I hate to say a little oddball, but we'd go on vacation and he'd just stay home. He didn't want to go on vacations with us, and
Yeah.
My brother's still alive, but my sister died about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm now getting near 90.
Yeah. In a few months.
So, and my mother died when she was 93, but she had Alzheimer's and she was living in a home. And my father had a blood disease called polycystia something or other, and he died when he was 68. And
Yeah, he passed away before I was born, right?
yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't remember. I don't have pictures with him or anything.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, my dad died at 68. My husband died at 68. And my oldest son died at 68.
Yeah.
So if you make it past there, you're okay.
Yeah. It's either 68 or 90, right?
Yeah.
I'll shoot for 90. I've got some good blood in my bloodline actually, because you're gonna be turning 90 here in April. My other grandparents lived to 96 and 95, if I remember. Something like that.
Yeah.
So.
But your grandmother was a little off.
Yeah.
I don't know about your grandpa.
Yeah.
He was the boss.
He was the boss. Yeah, no, my grandma Betty, she had dementia, right? Or else one of them. She was kind of losing it the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
They were good people.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the key to living this long is?
Pardon?
What do you think the key to living this long is? How have you stayed so healthy?
Well, I really can't tell you the answer there because about 3.5 years ago, I had a big melanoma cancer taken off the top of my head, which has left me with no hair up on the top of my head. And from then on, I've just kind of gone down till now. Probably my kidneys are failing. But my granddaughter, I only have 4 granddaughters. Only one lives in Utah. And she's...
I know her.
She's expecting a baby in about April. So I hope I'll be still here when she has her baby.
Yeah.
But my little great-grandkids, I think they're so lucky that they've got this grandma. Because my grandma, she died the same year I got married, which was 1951. And so, they're just, a lot of people don't get great-grandparents.
No, they don't. I only had one. Grandma Mary, your mom.
Yeah.
She was my only great-grandparent.
Yeah.
So she was a good one. She was a really good one. I had a girlfriend in high school, and if you remember, Grandma would come down and stay at our place when it was BYU Education Week.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sound right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And, I was 18 probably, and this girl was like 16. And she would always give us marriage advice. And we both always laughed, because I'd always planned on going on a mission, and we'll see what happens with her. I didn't end up marrying her, so yeah, but it was always it was actually kind of nice. I look back, it made you laugh a little bit for a second, right? Thinking, oh, I don't know if we're going to get married. But then, you listen to what she was actually saying, and really she just told me to be kind,
Well, she was very sociable,
mm-hmm.
and she kept track of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Some of her, let's see, what would they be? Cousins, maybe. Anyway, she kept in touch with a lot of the Moslers.
Yeah.
And I did have an aunt that she was probably the oldest living of Grandma's kids, and she married this Lewis man, which my grandmother was unhappy about for some reason. But he went on to have the Lewis Brothers stages, which was a bus that could take you from Salt Lake to Tooele. Mm-hmm. And I think he did okay. And then when he died, his son took over. And I think when the next generation took over, the whole thing fell apart. But
yeah, I can see that.
But I just had I think I really just loved being what I was being in Hunter. And now it's called West Valley, but to me it's still Hunter. Mm-hmm. And anybody that grew up in Hunter is still Hunter.
Yeah, well, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Mm. Grandma, when you got married young, right?
I was 18, just 18? Got out of high school.
Between you graduating high school and you getting married, how many months was it?
Well, we graduated in May and we got married in June.
Was it that fast?
Well, we were engaged for about a year.
Oh, okay. And Grandpa was 1 year older than you?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Like he was born in November, and then I was born April. So he wasn't that much older than me, but he was a year ahead of me in school.
Right. Okay. Yeah. A few months older than you, but.
Yeah.
Did you guys go to high school together? Did you go to high school together? No.
I went to Cypress in Magna. He went to Granite High School.
Okay.
So.
How did you meet?
This is unbelievable, but in Hunter, we just got a new church. Well, they were building a new church. So they were having a stake conference. And there was a couple of boys that sat in front of us, a couple of girls, and they just kept being funny to us. I was in about the 7th grade. And then we didn't date until about 10th grade. And we got married in the temple. But eventually he knew everything. So there was no sense in him going to church. Besides, he could watch football and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he didn't really have much to do with the church until the later years.
Yeah. So you got married at 18. What was that like getting married back then?
Well, it was fun. From 7th grade on, you learned how to sew, you learned how to cook, and so I was doing that at home anyway. So we just had a good time. We rented a basement up on like 23rd East, and I don't know. It was a long ways away. It was $60 a month, and it was a little bathroom basement apartment.
Yeah.
Well, he was working for his brother-in-law as in construction. Well, we didn't know it at the time, but the company went bankrupt, and so we found out the checks we were getting were no good. So we got kicked out of that house in August.
Oh, really?
So then, because $60, we'd only pay them $30 each payday, because, So then we moved out to Magna after Joanna Blaine left it, and that was another basement apartment, but it was our parents' friends. And I had my first child about 18 months after we got married, and we were living in their basement in Magna, and we were paying $30 a month. Well, when I had that baby, she said, "Oh, we've got to raise your rent to $35 because you're going to be using more power and stuff." So we moved out of that one. And we lived in two of my uncle's houses on 56th West. And then finally maybe in 1954, we had a home built out in Granger. And we stayed there for quite a while. And then we moved to California. Then we moved to Murray. Then we moved to California. Then we come back, and finally, my poor kids, they had to change school every year. I feel bad about that now, because maybe life would have been easier if they had kept the same friends the whole time, like I did.
Oh, maybe. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't mind. We moved every year. I never had to clean the house, like summer cleaning, because we always moved into a new clean place.
Yeah. Did you like living in California?
It had its advantages, but the smog down there was terrible. We moved there probably in May, and it wasn't until August, when the winds came up, that I found out there was mountains there.
Oh, really?
That's how thick that smog was.
What city were you in? Do you remember?
That was East LA.
Oh, East LA?
And then eventually, through some of our other moves, we lived in Van Nuys. And then we moved up into the mountains to Saugus. And by then, the fires were burning, and everything was awful. So Bryant went back to Salt Lake to get a job. The reason we would be changing was if the iron workers would go on strike, we'd go to California and get a job. And we still have some good friends that are down there. Mm-hmm. But finally, we just said, I can't stand this smog. Why don't we just move back to Salt Lake?
Yeah.
So we did.
And stayed here. Do you like living in Salt Lake?
I love Salt Lake. I love the valley. I love living between the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Michelle and I have talked about moving out of state, having an adventure or just trying something new,
Yeah.
But I think during the COVID years, I was still traveling quite a bit. And every time I came home to Utah, I just felt like home and felt like we had freedom here. And, Utah's full of amazing people and good people. And just, I don't know, it's beautiful too. You fly out on those airplanes and you look out the window and it's like, yeah, this is my home. This is a nice place to live.
Oh, we're just about home.
Yeah.
You can see the mountains.
Yeah, it kind of feels safe here in Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't get the storms come over and they go over to Denver, and they really get slammed. But the Great Salt Lake, which we're losing, it had something to do with the weather. Mm-hmm. The lake would draw the moisture to come, so we got to save that Great Salt Lake.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a major problem.
We used to go out there when we were kids. Because it was a salt lake, you'd just float. And I thought that was like going to the beach.
Yeah.
And now it's really lost.
Yeah, you probably remember that being a fun place. Even when I was a kid, we didn't really go to the Great Salt Lake to do anything. Most of the time we went to Saltaire to go to concerts.
Uh-huh.
That's about the closest I've been to Salt Lake personally. But
well, for us, that was our vacation to go out and.
Was it?
Yeah, and the salt was awful. If you had a sore anywhere, the salt would get you, make it better. And my dad, as a kid, would go fishing. My dad was a real fisherman. He'd even make little flies and that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our summers, we would go fishing. And my aunt, Evelyn Lewis, they had a cabin up in the mountains. And so would always go up there and maybe spend a week or so. Even when I had my first two kids, I asked my aunt if we could go up there for a few days and stay in the cabin, and she said, sure, go ahead. Just, leave it clean. And so everybody just seemed like everybody owned the cabin.
Yeah.
And it was such a neat place.
Yeah, good family gathering spot.
Mm-hmm. You could go hiking and it was real close to the Weber River, although it was on the Smith and Morehouse River.
Right.
And the cabin was right there on the river.
Oh, cool.
So.
How many years ago did your father pass away?
Well,
approximately.
I think it's been a while. I can't think of it.
Yeah.
If he was 68, he would now be closer to 100.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so 40 years ago.
But he was very ill.
30 years ago.
Really ill.
Yeah. Do you think of him often?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because I felt like I was close to him. I was always there when he was going out to the dumps or taking wheat over to Gardner Village to get the wheat fixed. And we'd go out on the Magna Highway to the gravel pit and get sand and stuff like that. And it seemed like I was always there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. What about Grandpa? You think about him much?
About Grandma?
Grandpa. Bryant.
Oh, about your grandpa?
Yeah, my grandpa. Sorry. How often do you think about your husband?
It's hard to talk about him because the last 10 years were terrible because of his illness. But when he went to Denver, he was there for a year, and he cheated on me. And I never felt the same about that.
Was that later in marriage, or was it in the middle of the marriage, or?
It was. He's been gone for 21 years, so maybe 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's a hard thing.
It is. It's hard to, I'm home tending kids and expecting to be faithful and true, but the man gets out and he forgets that he has a wife.
Yeah. How did you deal with it?
Well, just accepted it and moved on. We never talked about it again.
Did he tell you about it?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Well, should I tell these stories?
If you like.
When he was through with his gunsmith school, he brought his girlfriend to live with Jerry. Mm-hmm. And they were living with Jerry for I don't know how long before he finally came home. And at that point, I had made an appointment with an attorney to get a divorce. And he came home begging, "Oh, I'll be good. Everything's going to be good from here on out." But it wasn't, and basically it was his health, I guess. Mm-hmm. But, you just don't forget it.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think it's, unfortunately it's more of a common thing than people want to believe, you know, and I think when it happens to you, I think it hurts.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of your life. It's something that happened, and I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. Or
I probably told you a lot of stuff I shouldn't have told you.
Grandma, you get to say whatever you want.
Because my kids don't understand or don't even know about it.
Yeah.
But you do now.
Yeah. I knew about it before you told me. No, I appreciate you sharing it because, I've known you and loved you my whole life. And, and I love my grandpa, he was really good to me. Well,
I don't like to talk to my kids or my grandkids about him because he's still their grandfather.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I have the luxury of remembering, only good things about him.
Yeah. And that's important that you do remember good stuff.
Yeah. And I've always thought it was very admirable and loving of you to just keep going.
Yeah.
Because you've had a good life. You've gone through some hard stuff, and I can't even imagine what it was like growing up the way you grew up. I actually kind of envious of it. It's kind of fun.
It was good. Yeah. We played outside. There was always a group of people that want to play outside.
Yeah.
I don't think we didn't even have a telephone.
Yeah.
Let alone. In fact, when we finally got a telephone, I was probably still in elementary school, but there was 5 people on the line. So you knew what your ring was.
Yeah.
So you'd have to listen to. You couldn't answer if it was only one. You couldn't, you could only answer when it was your answer.
Right.
But you could sneak a peek at what the rest of the people were doing.
Yeah, it was kind of an open line, right? As long as you picked that phone up, it was good to go.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I've seen so many changes in the whole world.
Yeah.
That it's amazing. The electricity now is just beyond comprehension.
Yeah. Even cell phones, right?
Yeah, cell phones and this kind of stuff. Just it's interesting.
Yeah.
And the inventions just keep on going.
Yeah. Throughout your life, Grandma, what do you think has made you the happiest?
Probably my childhood. Mm-hmm. I've loved having my kids. My first two, Clark and Diana, are just 13 months apart. And then Lisa came along about maybe 3 or 4 years later. And then we had Ben. And then Clark was in college when I had Rebecca in 1971. If I could do it over again, and if I knew I was going to end up with 5 kids, they would be all together, not spread out.
Yeah.
But I love my kids and every one of them, and they've all got a problem, as everybody, all the world has a problem, but
Yeah.
I still love them.
Yeah. Now, is it true that grandkids are better than your own kids?
Say it again.
Is it true that grandkids are better than your own kids?
They are. Because with grandkids, you don't have to worry about, I got to get you to go to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to eat this. And they're just a treasure.
A little more stress-free?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my little great-grandkids, I just love every one of them.
Yeah.
I just really like to be around them. And because of COVID for the last couple of years, we don't see each other very often.
Yeah.
But we got together at Mark's house last Sunday, and all those cute little kids were there. And when I left, Rebecca and I left, every one of them came out and wanted a hug, and, I love you, Grandma, and that makes your day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something else that's hard that happened in your life. Ready for this?
Well,
I want to talk about something else that's hard that happened in your life.
okay.
And that is my Aunt Rebecca, your youngest daughter.
Yeah.
When she was 14, she was hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it left her in a childlike condition. And so you've actually had her live with you pretty much her entire life.
Yeah.
And she's, how old is Aunt Rebecca now?
Rebecca is 51.
51.
And she lives with me, and she does all the driving, and now she does all the house cleaning, because she gets up really early. By the time I get up, she's got 2 batches of laundry done and vacuumed.
Hey, good.
My biggest worry about me leaving this earth is what's going to happen to Rebecca.
Yeah.
There's only 2 choices. There's Lisa and Diana. And in my mind, neither one of them will fit the bill, because Rebecca has her own habits, and
Yeah.
she's not going to change. But I'm hoping to find some place that she will live.
Grandma, don't you think we'll take care of that no matter what as a family?
It's just she is so self-sufficient, even though she's got this traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Her memory's not good. We'll be going out, and she's driving, and I'll think we're going east, and she goes west, and where are you going? I don't know, I forgot where we're going.
Yeah.
But I love her to death, and I feel so bad that she turned out with that accident. It was so terrible.
Yeah.
She was in the hospital for 3 months, and then she had to learn everything over. She had to learn going to the toilet, eating, brushing her teeth, colors, everything. She had to relearn everything.
And she was 14 when it happened, right?
She was in 8th grade, so I'm not sure.
13, 14.
It was just before her birthday.
Yeah.
So, but she did graduate from high school, and she's had a lot of jobs. But, well, she was fired from a lot of them because she would forget what she's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And finally she said, Mom, I can't take being fired anymore. So we found an attorney and got her onto Social Security.
Yeah.
So she's got a little money coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's really a good worker. In fact, that's all she wants to do is clean house or something like that. We go to the malls, we go to the movies. I think she's keeping me young.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I wouldn't be doing all that.
Yeah. That's a good thing to get you out of the house.
Yeah.
It's too tempting to stay in the house all day, right?
Yeah. Well, when she got married to Larry a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, at least I don't have to worry about who's going to take care of her. And then about a year and a half later, he died.
Right.
So she came back to live with me, and it's good. It's good to have her.
Yeah. Yeah. Life's interesting. I mean, it keeps you on your freaking toes.
Yeah.
When she got hit by the car, do you remember how you felt during that time?
Well, yeah, because the ward was going to have I forget what they call it, where you go knocking on doors and asking for, if you got a graham cracker or something like that.
Yeah.
And I said, you can go, but don't cross the street to 40th West. So I went to Relief Society, and we were having a demonstration on pie making. And I heard the sirens, and I didn't even think about it, but pretty soon my home teacher, Gail Rosenberg, came and he said, Janice, I need to talk to you. Rebecca's been hit by a car. Well, so Gail took me down to the hospital, and Bryant was already there. And I thought, oh, why didn't you come and tell your wife that your daughter got hurt? Why did your home teacher have to come and tell me?
Yeah.
But they had her in a helicopter and took her up to LDS Hospital, or maybe Primary Children's. But it always made me feel kind of, I wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
But in fact, I didn't work for a couple of weeks, and my husband said, "Oh, you got to go back to work." I was making drapes at UCMI, but I found out he was going to work early and going up to the hospital to see her every day, and I got to go up there just after work till about 6 o'clock. And I thought, oh, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But I've had a good life. Don't take me wrong. I have really and truly, I've had some really good friends. My friend LaFay was a school teacher over in Europe. So because of that, I got to go to France and Belgium, and I can't remember. So I saw a lot of Europe just because of a friend.
Now, LaFay was always fun. I mean, LaFay was always good to me. It was hard to not think of LaFay as family growing up because she was your best friend till
she'd
just
come
a few years ago when she passed, right?
She would come when she was teaching. She'd come home for, Easter, Thanksgiving, and that. She always came to our place for Christmas dinner, and she was just really like a sister.
Yeah.
And very generous, and because of her, I got to go seeing the world. And the last trip we took was a boat to Alaska. That turned out to be a nightmare because it was the last boat that going to Alaska, and it was so dang cold, and I thought, oh, I hope I never go on another cruise.
No, I always admired you and LaFay. Like, it was always fun to see an adult in my life have like a best friend.
Yeah, we just we're good friends.
Yeah.
I could tell her anything I wanted. I have another friend, Edna, that was living in St. George when she died. But those two girls, I could call them and tell them all my problems, and they'd not be mad at me, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And then they'd tell me their problems. So, you know, now I don't have anybody to do that with.
Yeah.
My sister is dead, and my LaFay is dead, and Edna is dead. So there's me and Rebecca.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see my own children very much. Ben lives in Wisconsin now. And Diana and her family have all moved south into Utah County, except for Mark. He's at the point of the mountain.
Yeah.
But
always try and be a phone call away, though.
And for some reason, and people think this is dumb, but my kids don't come to see me. They're, you know, where we were always the one to go visiting, nobody comes to see us.
Yeah, it's kind of a shift, right? It seems like your generation would go, and my parents' generation is more like, we'll bring the grandparents here kind of thing.
And everybody's so busy
Yeah.
that, like, if Sunday is their only day off, they just want to be at their own homes or something.
Yeah, relaxing.
And, of course, Diana's got 4 kids, and they all like to go down there and see her and her swimming pool, and that makes a lot of difference, I guess, because if they come out to my place, there's nothing to do.
Yeah, we just got to talk, have some fun. Grandma, what was it like? How did you feel when LaFay passed away?
I felt very sad. We were going swimming every Wednesday morning, and one day she said, "Oh, my doctor wants me to have a what do you call it?
An ultrasound?
Colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy? There you go.
And she said, I don't want to have one. Well, the next day she went and had a colonoscopy, but they clipped something in her, and so they'd take her back for surgery, take her back to a care center, take her back for more surgery. That went on for 5 months. And the last time I saw her, she said, I just keep praying that they'll just let me go. I can't do this anymore. And my sister did the same thing with her heart. Mm-hmm. They'd do something with her heart, put her in a care center. 5 months, and then they finally die. And I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
But I feel really bad because she was such a close friend to me.
Because LaFay was probably the closest person to you throughout your life, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both had our kids about the same time. Would take them down to Liberty Park and let them play, and would take I can't think of the word of it now, keep you calm.
Yeah.
While we've got all those kids playing, but yeah. My life's been interesting.
Well, that's good. You don't want a boring life.
But the COVID business for the last 2 years has just ruined everything.
Yeah.
Neighbors don't talk to you anymore. Even my kids don't come around, and I don't go around them. And the COVID's been a real detriment.
Yeah, I think we'll look back in history at the COVID years and realize how stupid we were. All the way around.
Yeah.
So.
And Rebecca and I have not been sick, and we go to the malls. There's 3 malls we go to. We go to the movies. Last week we saw 2 movies.
Did you? What'd you see?
Well, I'll have to tell you, the best one was a father and daughter on vacation.
Okay.
And I think that's the name of it.
Okay.
And it is so cute. And the other one, we had Lisa go, and it's just a new one about George Clooney, and I better forget her name, but they're separate. They're divorced, but they want to save their daughter, and so both of them were good. But the one about the father taking the daughter on vacation's really the best.
Yeah, oh, that's good. That's funny. Yeah, I've always. You've been going to movies for years and years and years. It's one of your favorite things to do, right?
Oh yeah, I've always wanted to go to the movies.
So when you go to the movies, what do you do? Do you get popcorn and a drink every time? Do you get the candy?
I buy the child's size for $5.
Yeah, nice.
And that's plenty.
Do you go on a certain day?
Well, I try to go on Tuesday because that's $5 Tuesday.
Yeah.
But now that I'm old, you can get in cheaper anyway.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
even when we were kids, if we'd go out to Magna to see those grandparents, they'd always take us out to Magna to the theater, keep the kids out of your way while they visit, or we'd go up to Sugar House to Aunt Evelyn's, and they'd take all the kids down to the theater in Sugar House. So I grew up with the movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you ever into movie stars much? Or did you just like the movies?
Oh, yes, I loved Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah. And,
I can't even think of their names now, but I had scrapbooks full of those movie stars.
Did you? Where would you get the pictures from? Just magazines?
Magazines.
Yeah.
In fact, there used to be like a magazine that had a lot of movie star stories in them.
Oh, cool. Very good. So, Grandma, if you were to give some life advice, what do you think the best life advice is for people nowadays?
I've just had a good life. I've done a lot of crazy things because my mother was never there.
Yeah.
One time she said, "You and LaJuan can go bicycle riding, but don't go out of Hunter," which was 7200 West.
Yeah.
So the one we wanted to visit was down 7200 to 3100 and then over.
Yeah.
So one day we drove our bicycles down there, never told my parents. One time, LaJuan and my dad had an old Graham car. So we pushed it out onto 56 West, and we pushed it down north, and then we didn't know what to do because we had to get the car back home before my dad knew we had done that.
Yeah.
We got away with it.
Did you ever get caught doing anything?
No, somebody must have helped us push it back up. We just were doing crazy things all the time.
Well, good. So when I hear that, having some fun, would you tell people to say have more fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adventure and fun. Nowadays, in a condominium, you can't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have any lawn at all.
Yeah.
And we'd have sleepovers in the lawn, and it was just fun. You could look at the stars. You could see, at that time, you could see the stars and the Milky Way.
Yeah.
You can't do it now.
No, that's one of my things I hate the most about living in a city.
Yeah.
So when I go down to Lake Powell, my favorite thing about Lake Powell is seeing the stars.
You could see them down there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you get your boat away from everybody else, make sure the lights are off, you can see the Milky Way. It's beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of people I don't even think realize that. Well, you can see with just your eyes.
Well, if there's... Ooh, I don't want to do that. If there's ever something that's going on in the sky, like the moon was blue, and a couple of years ago you saw a whole eclipse.
Yeah.
Well, in West Jordan, me and my neighbors, we all got chairs and we watched the moon, and one of them had cookies that were shaped like the moon, and so I've just always been able to find something fun to do.
Yeah. Good. What would be your advice for anyone that's raising kids?
My advice would be to always love them and teach them the right stuff to do and the wrong stuff to not do. And stay married so that the children have both parents living together. Mm-hmm. And accept them. You're going to get every different kind of a personality, and you just have to learn how to accept that each one's different and you love them differently.
Yeah. I
never had a favorite. I've loved them all. I don't know.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice, Grandma. Now that you're near the end of your life, what's left that you want to accomplish?
I don't know. I would really like to go up to Salt Lake and see what they're doing to the temple. But I'd like to go up to the university, to their rose garden or whatever it is. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but Rebecca has to drive, and she don't want to do anything.
Do you have any grandsons that can take you?
I've never asked a grandson to help me. I would have loved to have gone and seen the autumn leaves this year. Because when we first had our kids, we'd always take them up and let them pick leaves and bring them back home. And it really meant something to see the autumn leaves. This year I didn't see any.
I think we still have some. We're in the middle of that. Let's go, Grandma. I'll take you to go see the autumn leaves. We'll stop by the temple. It's not much to see right now, though. It's only, they got a lot of scaffolding up and a lot of construction around.
I think once this summer we drove by, but Rebecca drove so fast that you couldn't see. But I could see that it was up off of the ground.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing miracle that they can lift that thing up and put it back.
Yeah, I think it was about a 4-year project. Probably going to end up being a 6-year project.
I won't be able to see it.
Yeah, you will.
But, there's things I would like to do that she won't.
Mm-hmm. What are those?
So we stay home and do puzzles.
What would you like to do, though, Grandma?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, I think after we leave here, there's a party for Tate.
Correct. That
we're not going to go to. So I think maybe we'll stop in and see Jolene if she happens to be home.
Okay.
Because, it's easy on the Redwood Road.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go home and, let's see, it's Wednesday, so I'll watch whatever I watch on Wednesdays on TV. Every day I have a favorite.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
And we're not doing puzzles right now because Rebecca got tired of it. So
how many puzzles did you finish?
A garage full.
Yeah, that's one of the funny things. Every time I've been to your house, we go out in the garage and I see you got a lot. I mean, you've got to have 50, right?
Well, the last 2 we did, each took 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
And that's what Rebecca decided, let's not do it. But I've got a round puzzle I'd like to do.
Great.
Because otherwise, what are you going to do? Sit and watch TV or read a book?
Yeah.
And she won't play any games, Monopoly or nothing. She won't play any of them. And see, LaFay and I used to play all kinds of games, and we had a friend named Russell Day, and he'd come over and would play checkers and dominoes and just all kinds of games, and she won't do it.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But You know, I love her anyway.
Yeah.
I just worry about her. In fact, I gotta stay alive for another 40 years so that.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Grandma, how do you want people to remember you?
Oh, that I was a lot of fun and polite and caring, very caring. I really do care about everybody. Yesterday, we were just coming out of Walmart up at where we live, and we saw a woman fall over. And I said to Rebecca, we got to pull over there and see what's going on. Oh, no, I don't want to. So we pulled over. I got out, and she's laying there. There's a piece of cement, you know, and then the lawn. Well, she hooked her bad leg on the cement, and she was laying flat on her back. And I said, oh, what can we do for you? And she said, oh, I have a new knee, but she called it a certain mineral. She said, I've hit that, and now there's a lump on it. And I said, oh, where's your car? She said, oh, I rode a bus. And I said, is there anybody? She couldn't get up. And I said, is there anybody you could call to come and pick you up? And so she got out her cell phone, and she just said to me, you can go. But, you know, it was cold, and she's laying there on the... But I felt like, oh, I wish I had a blanket I could have left for her. I should have said, let's just call 911, and they'll come.
Yeah.
But so I don't know what happened to her, but I thought about that all night long. Because maybe I'd be in that position at some point. And I would hope, well, in fact, if I'm standing outside of us like Ross while Rebecca gets the car, there'll always be somebody say, can we help you across the street or something?
Yeah.
Because they understand that I'm old. Mm-hmm. And I think people are really polite to old people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, me too. Couple last questions for you, for my own knowledge.
Okay.
Are you nervous to pass? Are you scared to pass to the next life?
Uh-huh. I am. I think it's because of Rebecca that I'm real worried about it.
What if Rebecca was taken care of? Would you still be nervous?
It would be easier. But I still, even though we know what we're taught, I still can't imagine it happening.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. And I asked my home teacher, after we're dead, are we all just bubbles?
Yeah.
What are we? He said, no, you're going to be a spirit. What's a spirit going to look like?
Yeah.
You?
No, valid questions, right? I mean, I think at my age, I just ignore the fact that I'm going to die. You know, because it's off in the future quite a ways, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, but you know, the older you get, the more you got to kind of consider that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Grandma, thanks for sharing.
Well, thank you, Mark, for asking me to come and talk with you, because ordinarily you wouldn't know all this stuff about me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to get to know this stuff.
I don't tell people about myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're kind of selfless that way. You just help people and make food and
nobody says, hey, Grandma, how are you?
yeah.
They don't. They say, oh, I've got... But they don't say, how you doing, Grandma?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Grandma, do you have any last advice you want to give to me?
Just be good and honest and faithful.
Will do. I'll promise you.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, Grandma, I love you.
I love you too, Mark.
I'm very happy you came on the podcast today, and we're going to wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram at President McCormack.